You're watching the free version of Mocha Essentials. Follow along with projects and footage with a premium download available at borisfx.com.
Hi, I'm Mary Poplin with Boris FX, and today we're going to go over Lesson 1, Exercise 1, Quick Start with the Mocha Pro plugin or Mocha for After Effects. In this exercise, we're going to be doing the very basics, and you can follow along with this exact shot from our website. We're going to create a planar track and a very quick shape, and we're going to show you how to get that data back into your host using the plugin interface. We will only be using the Essentials workspace. When we're done, there will be plenty of gaps in your Mocha knowledge, but we will fill all of those in later sections. At the end of this video, you will know how to use Mocha on a basic shot. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to select our layer, and we are going to go to Effect, and then we're going to scroll down to Boris FX Mocha and select either Mocha Pro or Mocha for After Effects. You can also use the Effects and Presets panel and type in Mocha, and drag and drop Mocha to your layer. In the Effects controls, you can see that Mocha launches as a plugin. We have this Launch Mocha button right here, and if we click it, Mocha will read directly from your timeline. For best results, launch in full resolution. When you launch Mocha, you'll see a splash screen. It's also got daily tips on it, and you can find our user manual. We're going to hit Start, and we're going to stay in the Mocha Pro Essentials workspace. When you open Mocha for the first time, it should open in the Essentials workspace. You can switch to a Classic workspace, Big Picture, or Roto workspace as you so choose, but in this, we're going to touch on the Essentials. We have several tools you need to know about in the toolbar. We have the Selection tool or the Picker tool, Add Points to Spline, Pan, Zoom. We have X-splines, magnetic splines, and an area brush. We also have some solids, and you can find your surface tool and grid tool up here in the toolbar, along with a drop-down menu to switch between views. I could use several things to track this shot. I can use the Area Brush tool, which creates a mask from a raster-based brushstroke. I can use the Magnetic Spline tool that will follow edges based on contrast. I can use the Freehand tool to draw my own shape. I could even use the Solid tool and align my points around the whole area that I would like to track. But Mocha is a planar tracker. And what does that mean? That means that Mocha tracks a pattern of pixels or a texture that is moving all in one direction. So if I try to track this entire screen, I'm going to grab all of the data for the screen, but I'm also going to grab the reflection here as well. Let me turn Surface tool on. The Surface tool is the representation of the track inside of Mocha. And the Surface tool is basically the mathematical data that Mocha creates, and it's how we translate that data out so that you can see what Mocha is doing. So, the shape is where Mocha is looking for the texture, and the Surface tool is how Mocha shows you what the texture is doing. So if we hit track forwards on this, you might notice we get some irregularities in the track. Notice how the track is slipping at the corners. That's likely due to the reflection that's moving over the surface of this pad. Now, because of the way Mocha tracks from frame 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then it looks all over the length of that track. Because we take into account how the texture changes over time, little interruptions like this finger just quickly moving over the surface of our pad do not interrupt our track. But if that hand stayed there, it would almost certainly interrupt the track. So how do we get a better track for the screen that doesn't slip due to reflections? We're going to use our X-spline. With our X-spline, I'm going to quickly just draw a shape around the top parts of this pad. And I'm going to keep this top texture because I don't see a lot of reflections in the top that I think are very noticeable. But towards the bottom, there are some noticeable reflections. We'll take our Surface tool and align it to our screen again because remember, the Shape is where the track is looking, and the surface is what the track is doing. So if you're ever curious about what your track is doing, make sure that your surface tool is on. You can even turn your grid tool on, and your grid is a child of the surface tool. So whatever you do to the surface tool, the grid will follow. What's nice about that is when you want to track, it will actually give you better detail over time. So what that means is that your grid will always show you an exaggerated version of what the surface tool is doing. When we track in Mocha, we want to track a couple of different things. We track translation, scale, rotation, shear, and perspective. What does that mean? Translation's really obvious. It's just what the object is doing in X and Y. Scale, also really obvious. It's how the shape grows or not. Rotation is also very obvious. But one of the things that really throws people off is what's the difference between shear and perspective. So shear is your movement in X and Y, so a warp in X and Y. And perspective is the addition of Z space into that warp. So things like a door closing or a face turning away from you. When you're tracking an object like this surface, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to track every single bit of motion that's happening in this shot. So translation is happening, scale's happening, rotation's happening. Shear's almost certainly happening because it's moving in space, and then perspective is definitely happening because it's moving in Z space. So we want to make sure that we check every single one of these options. Now we can turn our surface tool on and our grid tool on. We can hit track forwards. And what we should end up with is a beautiful, rock-solid track that does not slip at all. That track looks great to me. I'm going to turn off my grid tool and my surface tool. And I'm going to name this tablet track. I'm going to lock it, which means I can't alter it anymore. I'm going to turn the gear off, which means we're not tracking anymore. And I'm going to hide it so I'm not looking at it right now. And we're going to move on to what do you do about rotoscoping inside of Mocha. So we talked about how to create a Mocha Pro project, learning the tools, how the planar tracker works, tracking parameters, and now we're going to move on and talk a little bit more about how the shape and the track are different, tracking and splitting shapes for roto, applying tracking data, and applying the shape data.
You've been watching the free version of Mocha Essentials. To download all videos, projects, and footage, purchase the premium version available at borisfx.com.